Betrachten wir heute mal die Geschicklichkeit von Holger dem Schreiner. Während seine rechte Hand ein Brett sägt, schreibt die linke eine Rechnung. Gleichzeitig öffnet sein Fuß die seitliche Schiebetür seines Citroën Jumpy.
Ein guter Transporter ist wie ein guter Handwerker, ein echter Allrounder. Der Citroën Jumpy schon ab 175 € im Monat. Optional mit Hands-Free Schiebetüren. Jetzt bei den Citroën Business Days.
Blog Talk Radio.
Love in all things. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. My name is Chrism, and I just want to kind of jump right on in as we usually do with this show. I want you to feel free to call in. There's a guest call-in number, and that is area code 347-934-0026. Once again, that is 347-934-0026. And our beautiful, wonderful co-host, Santara, will pick up the phone and see how things are going with you. I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat room, everybody who is calling in right now. And let's just jump right in on this. And one of the recent things that I've been given to talk about is how difficulties will be given to you. Difficulties will be given to you in order to push you into specific levels of work, i.e., maybe entities will be given to you, or maybe you'll have to survive an isolating event or a sequestration in some way that doesn't allow you to have friends, to speak with family, to have work, or to have any kind of a social life. Kundalini will bring things onto you basically to really encourage you in not so soft ways to do the work that you need to do in order to gain a level of evolution within this grace of divinity that is awakened within you. As we've mentioned, before in other programs, the individual ego of a person will not do anything to really make itself work. It won't do anything to make itself get in shape, or to make itself lose weight, or to make itself become more flexible, or to make itself meditate, or to make itself do any kind of devotional practice, or to make itself do anything that it doesn't want to do. It will just go ahead and it will try to block the process. The Kundalini Mother knows this. She knows this. And so she will go out of her way to initiate a kind of experience upon the individual to kind of light a fire under their rear end, so to speak, to really begin a form of motivation that allows that person to feel the need for speed within their process. And that doesn't mean that we're racing or anything. It just means that from the position of standing still and not doing anything, she will initiate certain levels of motivation that a person will need to have in order to encourage them to do the work that they need to do. And in many cases, that's the surrender work. If a person is absolutely refusing to surrender to the impetus that their Kundalini is giving them, to the compelling that their Kundalini is giving them, to the work that the Kundalini wants them to do, that Shakti Kundalini can begin to open up a person to a form, whether it be entities or be an isolating event, or whether it be dreams that are constantly pushing a certain kind of practice or activity upon the individual. It's very, very, very important that people begin to understand that this will occur and that it's not accidental. That's the hard thing. It's like, whoa, my God, why did this happen to me? It's not accidental. And if she'll give you chances. She'll give you chances to do it on your own. But if you refuse to do it on your own, like most people would, myself included, then you have to be, in a way, coerced to do it. And that coercion can be, fairly disturbing, which is kind of what she wants it to be anyway. She doesn't want it to be gentle because she's already given you the gentle option. She's already, shown you the other options that allow you to do this work. Maybe perhaps the feeling of energy, perhaps you've been visited by certain benign types of experiences that you just kind of thought, oh, God, that's cool. Really, wow. Gosh, I hope that happens again. And you just forget about it instead of taking the message and doing the kind of work that needs to be done to further yourself into the arms of grace. So we're talking about this today. Now, I have a great example. I have a really, really great example of this. As you might know, I was involved last month, about a month ago, in ayahuasca ceremonies in the state of Oregon in the United States, and outside a small town called Bend, Oregon, which is just a really, really beautiful place. It's in an area of Oregon that is a desert, which I never knew Oregon had deserts, but yes, indeed, it has deserts. And beautiful, and they smell so wonderful. Oh, my gosh. But I'm going to bring the lady who arranged for this experience to occur. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Chrism. How are you?
Good. And I would like you to tell everybody, and if Lorania wants to jump in, I'd love to have her jump in too. Lorania is the Spanish word for spider, and the spider is a symbol of the Kundalini, and this would be Elizabeth's Kundalini that would be talking to you. How did your Kundalini arrange to trick Chrism into taking ayahuasca again?
Well, she tricked me too. I think she tricked all of us all the way around, but the way that she tricked me was that, she just pretty much kept me in the dark, because when, except for the fact that I kept feeling a prompting to want to go to this thing, and you, Chrism, had sent me a link, but I don't think you were actually serious about it. You were just someone had sent it to you. It was of interest, so I looked at it, and I just, from my Kundalini, kept feeling a real pull, like I had to go. So I knew that I had to go either way, regardless. I just didn't know why I felt such a compulsion to go, and I honestly was planning on going alone. And I thought that was the thing that my Kundalini wanted me to face, that fear of going and do, because I'm terrified of doing stuff like that alone. And so I was going to just surrender and go and do it. And then I started talking to you about it, and then you had mentioned something about somebody else that we thought, maybe it'll help this person with some problems they're having. So then we thought that it was about this other student of yours, and she still wasn't. Yeah, and so Aranya was still not letting me know. She was just letting me kind of go ahead and.
The other person is Brooke Robertson. I think everybody knows that you and I and Brooke went up there. So go ahead.
Yeah, and so I thought it was about something to do with Brooke, because you had said something and it sounded good to me. It felt good to me. My Kundalini didn't give me any indication that it wasn't that, and it wasn't, but I knew neither one of you wanted to go. You were both resisting it terribly. I mean, so completely. And I kept thinking, okay, I'm back to, it's a fear test for me to go do this. I'm gonna go do this regardless. And then lo and behold, it you kept asking me about it, and then Brooke would ask me about it, and then we would, it just, I don't know, and then it just happened where we all thought we were going, and then my Kundalini also tricked me with this sort of thing about, she gave me a whole download about the three of us going and forming a circuit. It was important, the energetic circuit with the Kundalini that would form to help this, to help in this healing situation, again, not letting me know who it was about. And I didn't know who it was about until the day we got there. We had arrived separately, and I showed up and you guys were already there. We went into ceremony later that evening, and then it was you, Chrism, who started having, like, horrible trouble. And I literally heard my Kundalini say to me, "Oh, you thought this was about Brooke." And right then I knew, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Hey, can you keep your mouth closer to the microphone? We're losing you every now and again.
Oh, sure. Sorry. So that's when I didn't know it was about you until literally mid-ceremony.
And I wasn't going to go. I was not going to go. It was like $600. And I have another thing I can do with $600, like fix my car and whatnot. But I got a strong compelling to go, and I figured, well, okay, I'll go up and assist these two ladies, and the whole time it was all about tricking Chrism into going up there and doing that because that kind of work wasn't done in Peru the last time we went, and so it's just been a very, very strong level of now. Does Lorania have anything she wants to add to this at all?
Well, I wanted to add, since we've been back, it feels like, and it seems like that's what's happening, that our processing and our karma and everything is sped up even that much more, and it literally is like lessons are coming to me just one after the other, and whether I pass or fail or whatever it's supposed to be teaching me, or I miss it, or so it comes again. But I'm just saying, expect the unexpected is what I would say about it, because nothing is what I have thought it is since we've been back. Everything is, as soon as I think I've figured something out, it's completely opposite of that. I don't know if it's just a very, the processing is very heavy, and I just noticed very intense, where I just am constantly having to be so on top of what I'm doing and being aware, or like you said, if it's something and I'm not getting it, I just get smacked down. And so I'm just like forced into surrender constantly, all the time, like
this
crazy since we've been back.
This is true. The processing with the ayahuasca goes on. For the Kundalini awakened and activated, the processing from an ayahuasca experience goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's like you said, Elizabeth, the karma and the teachings really, really, they're put forward in a very, very strong way, and you come out of the ayahuasca like a peeled grape, and it takes a while to develop that skin, to grow that skin back, and boy, oh boy, while you're growing that skin back, you really get walloped at times with different teachings that have to do with the personal you, the person that you are. It's not a generalized thing, except that the processing itself can be seen as a generalized scenario. But boy, oh boy, oh boy, when you do that level of work, it is just unbelievably difficult. And just in case any in the chat room or in the archives, listening to this in the archives, wants to go to the same shamans that we have, they're really full up till the end of the year, and they're actually disbanding that place that they have in Bend, and and we don't know where they're going next, but we'll keep people apprised as soon as we know, and so people can have access to that level of work. It's good work that they do. It's very good work that they do. So I just want to thank you, and I want to thank your Kundalini Laranya for tricking me into going.
You're welcome.
knowing that I would not have gone for any other reason. And oh my God, I'm so not looking at another scenario like that occurring with me. But I won't resist it either, because it does really, 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 really good work. So many thanks to you, Elizabeth, and to Laranya as well.
You're welcome. Well, and I know if we would have known what was going to happen, would we have shown up? Probably
never,
not.
never, ever would I have gone. If I had known, I would not have come. I would have stayed like it was the plague.
Oh God!
Thank you, my dear. And I might be calling on you again if you don't mind later on. So okay.
Okay. No problem.
And if you could ask your Kundalini right now, if it wants to say anything else with regards to this program, start putting it together, would you?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And so this is a great example of the ego in this case, my ego getting in the way of not wanting to spend the money, not wanting to take the time, not wanting to if I'm going to be helping somebody, okay, well fine, I'll go ahead and do those types of things, and all the while this was something that was being set up to primarily help me, and it did, and I'm still processing that. I do want to say hello to Atlanta Seeker, Mary Jean, Phil Karuba, and David as iMagic Art, and I want to say welcome to the guests that we have there in the chat room. Hello, everybody. Can you let me know, Mary Jean, Atlanta Seeker, or Phil, or David, if the sound is coming through okay in the chat room? I know that sometimes we have some sound issues with the Blog Talk Radio. So, Mary Jean, I see you typing. And, the sound is good. Thank you. And I'll try to keep my feet still so that people don't hear that noise going on. I'd like to welcome Rosemary and looks like there's not a name under that one there, but I believe that's Joey. I'd like to welcome Rosemary and Joey from the great state of Minnesota. And right now, I'd like to welcome my co-host, the queen of the Emerald Isle, the Shakti goddess of Ireland. Here she is, Santara Kundalini. Hi, Santara.
Hi, Chrism. Hi, everybody. Good to be here, as usual, on a Wednesday.
Good to have you here.
Great to hear Elizabeth sharing as well, Chrism. The two of you are sharing about Bend. And sounds really amazing and awesome and terrifying.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Oh, my God. Oh, you don't know. I mean, the next time you're, Santara, the next time you're waterboarded in your own vomit, then you'll know how great it was for me.
Okay, I look forward to it. Okay. Well, let me just give out the some websites, Chrism, before we go any further, perhaps.
Okay.
I can give a few of them. The first one, well, they're all actually places that people can go to if they would like to make a donation to the work that Chrism does. The first place is the one that I give out every week. It's www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and there is a donate button there. But I really love this next website as well. It's the one that Vincent created for the Kundalini Safety. And it's a beautiful website, and it's lovely to navigate, and it's very specific for the safety. But there also you can donate if you wish, and that is KundaliniSafety.com. So that's a really easy one to remember. And also there is an excellent website that has been created. The guy who created it, Chrism, I don't know his names offhand.
Is it, which
anyway,
one is it?
Yeah, it's the UK one.
Oh, that would be Peter. Peter created that. Thank you, Peter. Listening in the archive. Thank you, my friend.
I went and looked at it today again, and it is a wonderful website, guys. So it's beautifully laid out. It is really modern. It's very easy to get through and to navigate. And again, you can make a donation there. So that address is www.kas1, the number 1, UK.com. So KAS stands for Kundalini Awakening Systems, but it's just initials. KAS, the number 1, UK.com. And again, you can make a donation there. But please, I'd encourage you all to visit those sites because the teachings there are amazing. They will really help you in your process. They will give you such valuable information. And you'll find that you go there and you log on. It's amazing that you will come across exactly what you need to know at this particular time in your process. People say that over and over again. And of course, I would encourage you all, if you're in a position to donate, please do that because it makes a big difference. It enables this work to continue, and it's really, really helpful and gratefully received. So thank you. And that's it, Chrism. No announcements of any seminars now. At this stage again.
Well, we have another website too. It's a brand new one that's been developed by Vincent, and it's called Kundalini Soul, and it represents the Kundalini teachings of Brooke Robertson and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. And let me go over to Elizabeth real quick, make sure that's the correct name. Elizabeth, did I get that right?
Yes, it's Kundalini Soul. And it's at www.kundalinisoul.com, and we're live already, but we're not done. We're not done with it yet, so it's almost done.
Woo.
Okay,
fantastic,
thank you.
Guys. Is
that SOL?
Yes. SOUL.
SOL. Yes. SOL. Sorry.
Kundalini Soul, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Yeah, so add that to the list, and thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And then add that to the list, and also let's not forget to mention Kundalini Matters as well.
Is that .com, Chrism? The one with Elizabeth and Brooke?
Yes, I believe that is .com, yes. KundaliniSoul.com, and there you're going to receive the teachings of Elizabeth Kundalini Laranya, called the Laranya Files, or the Spider Files. And there you'll also receive the teachings of Brooke Robertson's Kundalini, which is called Kundalini Priestess. And so, and Vincent has laid that out in a very, very beautiful way. And many thanks to Vincent and to Laranya, Elizabeth, and Brooke Robertson. So there you have it, folks. Some of the other places you can go are on YouTube at Chrism.Kundalini on the YouTube channel, as well as Facebook, Kundalini Awakening ! And Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini People, Kundalini Healing, both a public and a private Kundalini Healing group, and Kundalini Radiance Community, where for those of us that would like to have an intentional community for Kundalini people, where we're trying to put that together as well. So thank you, Centaur, for putting in all of the donation requests. I do live off of the donations, and even though my Kundalini has me charging people now for Skype sessions and whatnot, I still, I'm not pouncing on everybody's purse strings as much as perhaps she would like me to do. But, that's a work in progress as well. So we'll go ahead and continue along the line. Now, the Kundalini will use many mechanisms. One person that I've spoken to, she has Kundalini, she's fairly new with the Kundalini, and but she's kind of not focused on a practice or having a teacher or anything like that. And the Kundalini wanted her to do that. So what does she do? She allows her to go to an acupuncturist that is possessed by entities, and boom, entities pop into her. She doesn't know what to do, and so she's kind of scrambling, going, oh my God, what has happened to me? I feel all this terrible, terrible stuff, and they're shouting at me, they're cussing at me, they're telling me to commit suicide, blah, blah, blah. And so she goes to another type of energy worker who has the same type of a deal, which is what most energy workers have, folks. Most of them have these entities that will jump right in. And so, of course, another entity jumps into her, and it's, causing her to really kind of go into fear. And the Kundalini allowed this to occur. Kundalini can stop this at any time it wants. But as I was mentioning at the top of the show, we won't do these things for ourselves. I shouldn't say that. Very few of us will, our ego will not go out of its way to say, oh, yeah, I need a teacher. And, oh, yeah, I want to do this practice. I want to get up at 6:30 or 7 in the morning and do an hour of Tritaka meditation, and then do the 5 Tibetans, then do alternate nostril breathing, and then do a 21-minute silent meditation, and then do a mantra meditation, and then do prostrations, or any of these types of things. The ego is going to kind of go, well, can I just sleep in? That's what my ego would do, So it's very important for us to understand that the Kundalini will arrange for us to have traumatic experiences so that we can find a resolution for those traumatic experiences. And in the meantime that we're searching for resolution, we're also searching for information that will help us out of those scenarios, and that gives us a practice, and that gives us information. And with a practice and with information, we have power inside of the Kundalini continuum. We have power, and that's what she wants us to have, and that's how often she will arrange for us to have it. She will give us a calamitous experience in order to engender in us a real need for speed in finding resolution. And through that search for resolution, we are allowed to find a particular teacher or a particular level of information that is useful for us in our Kundalini equation. And this is what happened to that person. And this happens across the board, my friend. And I'm not saying that Chrism is always the best teacher, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to blow the ego horn at all. I'm sure there are other people that are appropriate for the level of Kundalini that individual has. I was invited to this thing called the Kundalini Congress, and evidently I might be doing an interview for the Kundalini Congress on Saturday, this Saturday coming up. I don't know. I'm going for that. We'll see. But it's a whole conglomeration of different people that evidently teach certain types of Kundalini. And so I thought, well, we'll just go ahead and put what I do there into the ring. They've invited me. And so, but I all of a sudden I have all this whole list of a good maybe 15 people that teach some aspect of Kundalini. Some call themselves a Kundalini coach. Some call themselves, what do they call that? Life coaches. Some are swamis, from say a Hindu tradition or a Sikh tradition. And so I guess there are other people out there that, according to the organizers, are doing this type of work. And so we'll see. We'll listen to it when that opens up. But I'm not trying to blow the ego horn here at all, as saying that, oh, Chrism is the only teacher, and there is no teacher but Chrism, blah blah blah. Because that's not true. That's not true, but it is true for some. It is true for some, and maybe that's true for. Well, I'll just say that it's true for some. So, yeah, she'll trick you. She'll give you those entities, the Kundalini Shakti, the Sacred Mother, will do what she can do to coerce you into finding certain levels of information. And through finding those levels of information, it encourages you to look even further. Whether or not it deals with your problem, or whether or not it deals with your issue. When people come to me with these issues, I tend to give them a practice. I give them a surrender practice. A practice of giving everything that they are to the Kundalini. To the Kundalini in me, to the Kundalini in themselves, to the teacher. It's different for each person what the Kundalini will want them to do. And I want to encourage you to look at any of the challenges that you're facing right now with your Kundalini. Typically, the challenge will be about you surrendering in some way, shape, or form. Surrendering your life, surrendering your body, surrendering your mind, surrendering your ego. All of these issues come up within a surrendering context. And I know I've spoken a lot about this on these programs. It's just one of the very, very biggest blockages that people have. Okay? This is really important work. And it's not so easy to do. And you had an experience, you say your Kundalini awoke in you, like, say, 10 years ago. It didn't give you any kind of guidance. And so you were kind of left on your own to explore this type of belief system or that type of belief system, and you went from the light side to the dark side, satanic worship, whatever. The Golden Dawn is good for demonic type of stuff, and so you collect a lot of entities, along those lines, and Sahaja Yoga also is a very good one for collecting entities, and you go through all of these things, and you finally, after years and years and years of looking and attempting and trying, your Kundalini has always given you a level of discernment that says, maybe not this one. And so you change to some other practice. Look, she's kind of looking inside that and going, well, maybe not this one either. Boom, you go to the next practice, and so on and so forth, until you find the right level of information for you. And I think that did for me. I mean, I didn't try. I looked at some of the ones I've just mentioned, and they just weren't there for me at all. I was one of the really hard cases with regards to doing the work that she wanted me to do, because I didn't like her in the first place. I didn't know that my childhood was a plethora of Kundalini symptomology. I didn't know that at the time. I just felt like, this is really bogus. I'm not going to be surrendering to anybody or anything. And, I'm certainly not going to do these things. And so she literally made me homeless. For years, I was homeless because I was resisting totally everything that the Kundalini was trying to give me. I was totally resistant of it. Didn't want it, didn't want to hear about it, didn't want to think about it, didn't want to certainly not do any kind of a practice with it. And so I resisted, and I resisted, and I resisted, and I resisted. And in the process of this resistance, I was also looking for ways out of it. And as I looked for ways out of it, I was receiving information, the precise information she wanted me to find. You see where I'm going with this? I was given all the information she wanted me to find in the first place through my resistance, until I got to the point where I realized that I probably shouldn't be resisting at all. Now, from that level of information, that starburst of that aha moment, that's when I began the deep surrender. That's when I began to really, really deeply surrender into the levels of grace that had been there with me the whole time since I was born, actually. Breathing water when I was 7, can't ever do that. Evidently not. Can I do that anymore? No. Although I guess I could. The energy forms a barrier around the mouth and the nose, and water is basically oxygen and hydrogen, and you can breathe it. You just, the energy has to. The Kundalini consciousness will change the form of the water molecules as it goes in, and you basically are breathing oxygen. Anyway, I'm going to go over here and I ask her if she's had any corresponding experiences this way. Have you had any corresponding experiences like this, Samara? Uh-oh. It's all quiet in Maryland. So I'll just let her finish your business there. And move on here to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. I love talking with Elizabeth. Elizabeth.
Hi, Chrism.
Thank you for being there. First of all.
Hello.
Tell me, what resistance did you go through with Kundalini? Any?
Well, oh my gosh, it's all kinds. But while you were talking, Aranya was adding about old habits and it's the same thing you're saying, but old habits and patterns, breaking down old patterns of behavior in every aspect of your life. And at least I, in some way, resist all of them. Or until you, like you said, until you realize, why am I resisting letting this go, or changing this pattern of behavior, or thinking about this in a different way, or emotionally reacting differently, or reacting from the safeties rather than, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's in everything we do, and in every aspect of our awakened lives or activated lives. We're constantly being asked to, or not, it just happens automatically, breaking down old patterns of behavior, whether it's a material thing or it's an emotional thing or a psychological. It's all the above. Agreed.
And she's absolutely right on target. With the experience with my Kundalini is it changes your entire life, all aspects of your life, and even to the point that you grow your hair at a different rate, and your body metabolizes food at a different rate, and you have a different level of libido, you have a different level of, there are so many different levels that are changed by the Kundalini that it is stupendous in its application of change upon your mind, your physical body, your psychology, your emotions, and your spirituality. It is just amazing in the level of change that occurs. And I know you've gone through quite a few different systems of spiritual belief on your path to where you are. I was going to say when I was younger, it was so much easier to have Kundalini because no one's telling you that it's wrong or that it's, I actually, when I was a child growing up, found it easy to surrender to it because I just inherently knew it was what was guiding me, but as you grow up and you go through then you're searching and you're going through these different systems, and then you have all these influences from outside of yourself as you're going through the world, you develop all these karmic even patterns of behavior that then the Kundalini is going to come back and have to break all that down and remove that, Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And I think, it's a real blessing to know that in advance so that you can begin to surrender to the changes that come. Like a person, like, say, I'm just going to guess, was he a guest, 899. So we've got guest 899 here, and let's just pretend that they're in the activated state. They're listening to this program. They're listening to you, Elizabeth. They're listening to Siddharth, myself, and they're getting this information. And let's just pretend that they've just begun their activation. And oh my gosh, what a gift this level of information can be, because all of a sudden they realize it's like, oh, I've got to surrender to these things. I've got to surrender my eating habits. I've got to surrender my libido habits. I've got to surrender my work habits. I've got to surrender my exercise habits. I've got to be open to the changes that are coming, or else, this will be in some way inflicted upon me or given to me in such a way that I can't say no, like it was, with Chrism. And so this person is able to take in this information and allow their life to be changed. I mean, I think this can be very, very, very beneficial. And I want to thank you, Elizabeth and Naranya, your Kundalini, for helping to drive these points home. Thank you very much. And I'm going to
Sure, thank you.
I'll see if Ireland is back online yet. We'll see. We'll hope. Thank you. And let's see here. Santara.
Santara's back online.
Oh, she's back.
No.
I hope everything went well. Did everything go well?
Don't go there. It was a very bad line. You were coming on and I could barely hear you. Yeah, it was not good. So yeah, it came back on again. Okay, so I can hear you well now. The last few minutes, I didn't hear much of Elizabeth, but I knew she was on there.
About the efficacy of Kundalini cashew nuts. Do you have any?
I bet you have.
So do you have any kind of experience that resonates with having the Kundalini kind of trick you into doing something that allows a great blessing to come to you, kind of circumventing the will of the ego, you might say? Have you had that occur?
Oh, Chrism, yeah. I mean, in lots of different ways. I can't think of an example now. I really can't. Yikes. I can tell you, though, that, you were speaking earlier about, Kundalini surrender and the deepness and how far a person goes into the practice of surrender. The practicing, we'll say, of the morning practice that you gave the example of, and going through all of that and going through so many amazing experiences that were so challenging and so difficult. And, I think, oh my gosh, I mean, it's been quite a long few years now. And then suddenly you think, well, it can't be any more difficult or challenging or amazing or beautiful than it has been. Not that it's finished, but you feel, yeah. And then suddenly, boom, what Kundalini does next, you just could not possibly imagine. And she does that over and over in phases. So I am always, taken, stunned really by how she teaches me and how she insists on the changes, and how she then also is so good in the way I don't know this at the time, but I can see it retrospectively more, how she has actually brought me through.
An example of that, I think, would be having a person do devotion to the teacher over Skype, and having that devotion, that action of devotion, actually activate their Kundalini right there, right then.
Wow.
To have that level of devotion, and to have that level of sincerity in the devotion, and to have that fruit of the divine come to that individual, through that action of devotion. And have you had anything like that happen to you, Santara?
Not that exact thing, Chrism, but most certainly things. I think what you're talking about there, what I have experienced is in a moment of absolute, authentic adoration and surrender to the Kundalini, what actually is given is beyond words. In my experience, I mean, I could give examples of it, but I somehow don't want to, you know.
No, don't force that.
Yeah,
no.
I don't. It's very personal, but it is like what you've just explained or shared with us there. That is an incredible thing that is given to a person. That is surrendering and opening themselves to what the Kundalini wants to do with them and for them and to them. It's just amazing, Chrism. Recently, she has been bringing me back. I'll just say a little bit. It's been very interesting. There's been a huge amount of things happen, and she's been bringing me back to past things in this lifetime, not past lives, in this lifetime. And it's like, boom, I'm suddenly back there, Chrism, and it's not, I'm also observing the me and the situation of that time. And what's amazing is that in the one moment, I'm observing what's happening and I'm understanding all the dynamics of it. I see myself, I see the situation, but not only that, she lets me see what I was being taught and what I missed. And that has been amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then what I learned in other scenarios, it's just been incredible. And I can't, you know, it's just amazing. And she does this with us in the most amazing ways. And, you know, yeah. So that's those things surprise me and stun me. And they just amaze me, Chrism. You know, such an amazing thing. Yeah, that's amazing. Am I repeating myself?
All right,
yeah. And I just want to say before you put me in the blue. Before you put me in the blue.
Yes.
Earlier I went on and I just put in the website, the www.kundalinisol.com, and it's great. So
gorgeous.
Again, go on. It's fantastic. It's absolutely gorgeous. Well done, Vincent, and well done to the two ladies. I'm looking forward to getting into that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, and so, gosh, you know, what a beautiful sharing from Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and Santara Kundalini as well. And I'm looking at the people on the chat room and I know they've got some really great stories to share as well, and some very, very long and beautiful journeys as well. And I'm sure that in their own very, very, very special way, there have been levels of Kundalini coercion involved in how they have responded to the Kundalini itself, and you know what journeys that they have been placed in that have perhaps meant one thing to their ego and then something completely different to the Kundalini itself. And as I think Elizabeth and Santara have indicated, it's the Kundalini agenda that will eventually win out, but she doesn't mind filling us with the information and the discernment that we get through our search for that information. It's so important to be able to discern the appropriate thing to do or not to do. And it's like they say in the casino sometimes. They say, scared money never wins. Scared money or frightened money never wins. Okay, and I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's true, but it makes a good thing, and it makes a good thing to say about the Kundalini. If you're afraid to be discerning because the teacher is so powerful and so many people like this teacher, and you know, you've given so much, you know, of your money or your life or your willingness or your freedom or your whatever to this teacher, that you're afraid to be discerning. Well, that will not serve you well. So you will not win with that type of a fearful attitude. But you let the Kundalini help you discern what is appropriate. That is the key. That is the key. You don't listen to the complaints of other people. You don't listen to the adulation of other people. You listen to that voice within you that doesn't speak with words. She speaks with blocks of thought, what I like to call a download. She'll teach you with a download. She'll teach you with a compulsion. She'll communicate to you in feelings and emotions and symbols. Some call that the language of the birds. She'll speak to you in a very symbolic way. For most of the population, if you're in a dream state and a giant python comes up to you and basically is, you get a thought that it wants to eat you, and most of the population is going to turn tail and run like crazy. And they would be right to do so if it weren't in the dream state. But in the dream state, the Kundalini is going to compel you to let that snake consume you. And so you have to go through that fear modulation and to say, take me, I am yours, consume me. And as soon as that snake consumes you, you're in a state of bliss and ecstasy for having conquered that fear and allowed the Kundalini itself, which is symbolized by the serpent, to consume you. Well done. Well done. And I'm not talking about a steak right now. Well done. I'm going to come on over here to Her Holiness Rosemary Goliath. And hi, Rosemary.
Hello there, Chrism. I am listening.
Hey, I'm listening to you as well. Have you had instances where the Kundalini has given you a reason to fear, and yet as you looked for information, you found information that perhaps she wanted you to have in the first place? Have you had that experience?
I'm not remembering things like that, but it could very well be. If you might remember my talking about it, if I had, but
like having a man having a man appear in the doorway holding a snake and then laying that snake out to you and down. Little things like that.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. That was at my first visit at the ashram, and I woke up and there was a very, very tall man standing in the doorway, and he had like a bluish gray suit on, and he was standing there not speaking, but he a snake coiled up, and he came towards me and put it down beside my bed, and I said, "Oh, I know who this is," and so I heard it, and it was really there in that form, and I can remember now that I'm saying that a couple times that there was.
Yeah.
And usually when I let go of fear of anything or concern or what am I going to do if, that's just ordinary stuff, then there's a shift. I have a really mundane thing that happened yesterday. Okay. And I was going to write it up, but I haven't gotten to that. But this is fine. It has to do with a. Can
you speak closer to the microphone on your phone, please?
Here. And I'm sorry.
There we go. Much better. Much better.
I'm sorry. Yes, I can get it closer. I'm heading upstairs because there was. It's a beautiful outside, like a lantern that's close to the highest level of the wall there, and it's beautiful. And I remember when Al put it in that it was like something special about it, and there's various little pieces. Now finally the light burned out, and I got the ladder because it's high, and I was were like half a dozen different pieces, and I still couldn't get to the lamp. And I was discouraged and thinking, oh, I want to do this myself. I don't like having bother people to take care of things like this. And somewhere in that process, it was like that giving up and surrendering. My hand reached to a place that I couldn't see because it was kind of just the way it was. And all of a sudden, it was a little screw that was loose. One on the other side, and it was that simple. And I knew right away where that help came from. And I was touched and relieved. It's a very simple little thing. But those kind of things happened to me. And what also came to mind, and I was so pleased, and I'm standing here, right here, and that touches my heart again, to that simple help. And I really didn't ask. I wasn't even thinking about that, assuming I should know how to do this. But what came back to me, and I'm heading right here to that, I think, that's something you had written recently about sacred unions, that how we are all united with all this sacredness. And I said, I think that the sacred union that we have would enable us to fix things. That's a really simple, mundane, practical thing. And I said, that's what happened yesterday. I didn't even think that I have this grace of the Kundalini in connection with this beautiful wall light.
Oh, no, it's wonderful. And it's true, indeed. And thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for sharing that. It's very true. In the mundane world, the Kundalini will come and help people with the simplest things. I mean, I remember breaking down on the side of the road and having no idea how to fix a car and using a hairbrush and a film canister to prop the throttle body open so that I could actually get somewhere in the middle of a Los Angeles freeway, for crying out loud, which is the worst. And I had no idea what to do. All of a sudden it just came to me to do these specific things, and it was very, very, very helpful that way. And Santara, we have a new caller there, if you wouldn't mind seeing if they would like to ask a question. So the Kundalini will come to you, and she will give you aid and assistance in many, many different ways. In a loose screw, on a lantern. I mean, that could cause that thing to fall or to break, or very, very helpful in the real world. And so, very, very, very helpful to know that you can count on these types of things. I remember I was living in a truck on the side of the road, and I didn't have an air cleaner over the carburetor, and I had pumped it full of gas, and there was gas kind of all over the engine. I don't know. I forget now how that occurred. And I tried to start the car, and it backfired, and the backfire came through the carburetor and started the engine on fire. And I was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. And I was guided to just lean over and blow out the gas fire on my truck engine. Could not believe it. She can help you in very, very profound ways. Very profound ways, my friends. Trust the Kundalini. She's with you all the time. I don't care if you've had it for 10 years or 1 week. You can trust the Kundalini. The most important thing, really, in the early areas of the activation is not to go to these purveyors of energy medicine, or to try to look outside of the Kundalini for help with the Kundalini. And that's easier said than done, because when it first comes on you, I know that you're going to go to a Reiki therapist or an energy modulation type of therapy, and I get that. And if you cannot do it, I think it would be very, very helpful for you not to do that. But sometimes it does work as well. Sometimes she wants you to have those entities, and because they compel you, they drive you. to search out other levels of information. And so I do feel that does serve her purpose too. And now I am going to, first of all, I want to go back to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. And does your Kundalini have anything she wants to add to this conversation, Elizabeth?
No, not right now.
Very good, very good. Thank you, my dear. Just checking in.
Okay.
And then I would like to come back up to Centara and begin with the questions.
Actually, Chrism, I'd like to share something, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, it's about, the Kundalini wanting me to do something and I definitely not wanting to do it. And I just want to share it because maybe some other people are having such urges or such, compulsions, and they're wondering about it. It was back in 2011 and my Kundalini had been fully awakened for maybe 4 years. You had been my teacher for 2 years. I had already done a seminar in Kerry, and that's where my husband had grown up. We had, he was born and reared there, and we had fixed up a derelict house there. And then that was in 2010. And in 2011, I started to get this feeling, and that's how it began, that I was to move to Kerry. And I was appalled at the idea of moving to Kerry because my children, I had homeschooled them for a while, and I had just found the previous year 2 fantastic schools that really suited them, and we were happy, I was showing the Kundalini video. I had a meet-up group for Kundalini. Things were going really well, and John was retired, and suddenly I started having these feelings that we should move to Kerry, and they weren't for me. And I thought, no, thank you. And then it would come again, and it would come again. And I remember writing to you at the time and being distressed because I began to realize this was really, Kundalini was, I thought, maybe wanting to give me this instruction that we were to move to Kerry, but I could not make sense of it. It did not make sense to me because it felt as if I was moving away from what was my Kundalini life, if you know what I mean. I had a lot of Kundalini things going on. And long story short, I meditated and opened myself to listening to the Kundalini. And it took me a long time, to actually make that move and to stop resisting and to move down to Kerry. And once I had that done, and when I look back now, because I've moved again since then, we were down there 4 years, what actually happened in those 4 years, if I had insisted on staying here in the life that I was enjoying at the time, I would not be where I am now, obviously. I would not, the amount of teachings and the amount of change that I received, the amount of grace, the amount of just, that's what she had very, very definite plans for me when she moved me down to Kerry. And I just want to say that we really need to open ourselves to doing what it is that the ego doesn't want to do, because I certainly didn't want to move there, Chrism,
It's true.
It was
true.
a huge
Yeah, you
move
really
for
do.
me.
And it's hard for people to really give their ego ideologies a rest. It's not the easy thing. I mean, when you look at cause and effect in the mundane world, if you put your hand on that hot stove, it's going to burn. And so you learn through painful experiences like that what not to do and what to do in other cases. And in many ways, we do not like to embrace change. We like the status quo. We like the way things are going, And when the Kundalini comes along and says, oh, you must make this change, well, that ego is going to resist it. And it's going to resist it. And depending on how much energy and how much strength you have in your equation will determine the level of resistance that this is going to incur. And boy, it can be very, very difficult for people to begin to go the way the Kundalini wants them to go. And it will, the Kundalini can literally put them into a fragmentation, a complete break from society if they are so resistant to doing what the Kundalini wants them to do. It can really, really, really hammer them hard, and put them in a position where they have no other option but to obey what the Kundalini wants them to do. And I've seen this happen again and again and again, and it happened to me many, many, many different times. And I'm really happy to hear your experiences about that, Santara, and thank you for sharing them.
Okay, Chrism. Will I start with the questions then?
Yes, please.
Okay. I haven't. Let me see now. They're here in front of me. Did I receive? I didn't receive this week again any direct questions into my inbox. So I have some from the group, and I have a few from. They're all from the group. So let me begin. So I can say to begin with. Oh, I did receive one actually, Chrism, and it's from Jessa.
Okay.
And she asked me to say it was from her, and it is about, and it's interesting because it's about the ayahuasca, and it's not coming up in front of, oh darn. Interesting now, isn't it? Haha. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's about the ayahuasca, Chrism, and she says, no, it's gone. Oh, that's really interesting. It's gone. I'm not meant to ask it, Chrism. I'm going to leave it go.
Do you remember what it was?
Sorry.
Do you remember the question?
I hate asking questions when I see when you're talking if I can go back and find it again. It's just after freezing my messages. So I'll come back to it. So for now, I'm going to ask you a question from the group from Greg. And he says, for someone who easily gets spirit attachments, please, like walking through an area like a shopping center, and not long after that feeling cold and confused and heavy and difficult to concentrate. Do you have advice for a person like that, please?
Yeah. For
I
a
assume
person
he's
like
talking
that,
about himself.
Okay. For a person that have those types of scenarios come on, I would suggest that they restrict their interaction with nature. They away from society and more into nature. Restrict your interaction with crowded societal things like subways or shopping malls or stores or crowded streets or crowded restaurants. Until they're able to develop a level of filtration, and the Shakti will bring levels of filtration for a person that has newly acquired skills of telepathy or spiritual attachment, things of that nature. Do more interaction in a forest or in a meadow or in a desert or on the beach, or not the crowded LA type of beaches, but maybe a more secluded beach, or maybe a beach around a lake or a river, unless you live in Florida, where that's where you can get consumed. So it's true. So do your best to do things along those lines. Eventually, filtration will be developed. But at first, with spiritual attachment, basically what we're talking about is entity attachment. The person can suffer and go through levels of difficulty that they may not need to enjoy. And the other thing that they can do is there are different kinds of practices one can do to discourage spiritual attachment. One coming to mind right now is you first of all, let me back up a little bit and say there is no such thing as imagination. In our society, we teach our children, and we've taught our parents taught us that, oh, it's not real, honey, it's just your imagination. Well, that's not true at all. Imagination is spiritual creation. It's kind of like saying the words abracadabra, which is I create as I speak. And the imagination is I create as I think. Okay. And so what I'm gonna suggest a person do, and anybody that's listening to this can do this, is to create a rose that is about 6 feet out from them, or the length of their body out in front of them. And create that rose with your mind's eye and allow that rose to soak up any negative spiritual attachment interaction that you may have if you're forced to go into a mall or a store or a restaurant or a place where a lot of people are, a stadium, things of that nature. And spin that rose. Allow that rose to spin in a clockwise circle around you. And allow it to spin so fast so that if it's a red rose, you have a red circle around you. And you just let that rose collect anything that wants to attach to you. And you're creating a perimeter around you, an energetic perimeter around you. And every now and again, just check on the condition of that rose. See if there's anything attached to it. And if something has attached to that rose, blow it up, create a new one, and spin it. That, if you do that over and over and over, you'll get real good at it. You can actually do, a different parabolic spins. You could have more than one rose. You can have like 10 roses or 20 roses, whatever you want to do. Make sure they have thorns on them, by the way. And spin them. Spin them around you in ways that you and your Kundalini feel are comfortable enough for you to discourage any kind of a spiritual attachment. This is a very, very easy technique. Anybody can do this for any reason that they want, whether they've got, Aunt Jane, she's coming back to haunt the house. Well, you don't want necessarily to have interactions with Aunt Jane, and so you can go ahead and spin a rose. That won't work with entities that the Kundalini wants you to have. They'll just blow right through those roses, and you'll get those entities, and you'll have to learn how to deal and how to work with the Kundalini in order to strengthen you, so that those entities, as you sour the milk, will want to leave you. But those entities are Kundalini allowed, and so there is a teaching that scenario is being given, and you won't get to avoid that teaching. But for just itinerant stuff that like you encounter in a mall or a department store or a stadium or a restaurant or on the street, you can use that rose technique, and it's actually quite effective. So there you have that one technique for spiritual attachment. Over.
That's great, Chrism, because can you hear me?
Now, yes, I can. But Brent on the chat room has a question. He says, "Hi, Chrism, can you speak about how the Kundalini changes a person's thinking? I've heard of certain people that have had the Kundalini awaken for some time, claim that they no longer have much mental chatter, if at all." Yes, Brent, that does indeed occur. Like, for instance, when I'm streaming Kundalini, like when I do these radio shows, I'm streaming Kundalini, or when I make a video, there is no script. I'm streaming the Kundalini right there. There is absolutely no mental chatter at all. It is supreme clarity of thought and expression. There is no monkey mind. I'm not worried about this or that. I'm very, very, very focused and very, very mindful of what she is saying through me. And I'm not, trying to improve on it. And I'm not, my ego is not involved. And because the ego is not involved, the ego itself is often a great producer of mental chatter, of that inner dialogue that just won't stop. Those are basically egocentrisms, but also entities will do that as well. And as you go through your Kundalini process, and as you're maturing within your Kundalini process, you can begin to invite levels of serenity that will contraindicate mental chatter, or monkey mind, as some people call it, the mental chatter. So, yeah, it definitely changes the way you think. It changes the way you think and what you think of. So, for instance, you're not thinking of, oh, I've got to get my car fixed because my fan belt needs to be changed, or you're not thinking of, oh, have I fed the dogs, or you're not thinking about, oh, did I call my boyfriend or my girlfriend, or oh, do I have to show up for work at a different time tomorrow than I usually do? You're not thinking about any of these things. You're very, very site-specific about what your thoughts are, and this invites levels of serenity. You have serenity thinking, and serenity thinking is very calm, is very well, for lack of a better word, serene, and you don't have that kind of chatter that is associated with anxiety or with the mundane important thoughts that we have to have. I mean, I'm not saying all mundane thoughts aren't important. Some, you got to pay those bills. You've got to do that work, but you don't have to do it all the time. And even when you have the Kundalini, she will infect with serenity the way you approach your mundane thinking. Okay? It's true. It's true. She will change the way you think, and the quality of your thoughts will also get changed. So if you're operating from a lot of fear, the Kundalini will step in, and she will begin to isolate these levels of fear. She will push you into learning how to face these fears. And as you learn how to face these fears, you will no longer have the fears. And this will change your inner dialogue from a fear-based inner dialogue of like, oh, did I do this? Did I turn the gas off on the stove? Oh, my gosh, did I lock the door? Oh, my gosh, did I do this? Or is there somebody around that corner up ahead of me there? She will change the fear-based thinking into a serenity-based thinking. And from that level of a lack of fear, your inner dialogue becomes very calm and very collected and very, very serene. And so, yes, Brent, that's an excellent question, and thank you for answering it. I hope I did it some service for you. And thank you, Santara, for waiting. Please continue.
Thank you, Chrism. I have this question from Jessa, she says, I have a question for Sir Chrism. I have an answer from the doctor of ayahuasca, and he said, if I really wanted to participate in ayahuasca ceremony, there's no side effects on this cure. Because of her situation, they will adjust the dosage from the beginning to the end of the ceremony. And she wants to know, is it okay with you, Chrism?
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because the doctor is making a very generalized statement about, he's saying that the drugs she's taken are not contraindicated for ayahuasca consumption. But what he doesn't know about her is that she's already got Kundalini activated within her. And so that changes the level of interaction. And I'm going to bring Elizabeth in on this and Loranya. That changes the level of interaction that the ayahuasca will have with the individual. It changes the level of interaction that the ayahuasca will have upon the heart as it mixes itself with the heart medicines that her doctors have prescribed her. And what do you think of that, Elizabeth?
I think so. And also, if she were going to go do it, whatever shaman she chooses, you fill out a physical form. That if that were a concern, they could address that for you.
Well, the group that she went to has their own MD on board, and he reviewed her. Yeah, he reviewed the chemicals that her MDs are having her take for her heart condition.
Oh, okay.
And he represents the shamans, so to speak. But I'm looking at because he doesn't know that she's got Kundalini activated, you see.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
What does Loranya say about this? And Amelia, I'd like you to check with your Kundalini as well. I want to get a Kundalini consortium going here and see what comes for before
Yeah, I think the Kundalini, getting that the Kundalini would protect her in that way too. That there would be protection provided.
If you can't take a standardized dose, what's the point of taking the ayahuasca in the first place?
Well, it depends on the person, though, and it depends how many ceremonies you're doing and how close together they are, and factors like that, because depending on your tolerance to it, and with the Kundalini, at least for me, it made me even more sensitive.
Well, no, I mean, but did you start out with a standard dose in Peru?
Yes.
Did you start out with a standard dose in Oregon?
No.
First ceremony?
I took a little bit less, and then the second night I took even less.
No. I get the you go down as the ceremonies go forward, but for the first ceremony you took just shy of a standard dose, right?
Yes.
And so what this MD is saying is that she's going to be on a much less dosage throughout all the ceremonies. And I'm just wondering, to me, I think there's, she's trying to go for phenomena. It's a phenomena addiction. What do you think,
Yeah.
Well, what I'm getting, Chrism, is that because she has Kundalini, I think a lower dose would be okay. That's just what I'm getting, that a lower dose would be okay.
Yeah.
She's gone.
You're welcome, Dan.
I hear you, though.
I don't know. This is, I gave her Shaktipat. She got the Kundalini right then and there, right after the Shaktipat. She's one of those rare individuals that received it immediately. And, I don't think that going for extra bells and whistles is always the appropriate thing to do. Just because you have the availability doesn't mean that it's something that you should avail yourself of. And if the doc is already saying she's going to have a much, a small dose, throughout all the ceremonies, well, what's the point?
But maybe a small dose is all she would need in terms of...
Yes, maybe. What
not
if?
For phenomena, but...
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate your opinion, and I appreciate Elizabeth's opinion as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, to me, I mean, she can listen to this program and she can see. I wonder what's the rush. Why is the big push?
Actually having the ayahuasca, you mean, Chrism, is it?
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah.
What's the big push?
To be fair, I think there wasn't a big push. I think, if I'm correct, she arrived into a situation where it was suggested that she go and take the ayahuasca, but because of her medicine, she didn't. And so I suppose it's just a continuation from that. I don't necessarily think she's dying to do it. I think it's just something that has continued from what happened in Berlin,
Yeah, well, that's fine. I think she should build on what happened in Berlin. That's my personal opinion. I am not getting... I'm sorry?
That resonates with my
she's a person that has been, we're discussing this in public here, and I guess that's why she wanted you to ask the question.
Was okay, because I asked her, was that okay? Because I said, I never tell who people are, but I would like to say this to the listeners. I never say who writes in the questions, but in this circumstance, I did say, Jessa, I can't ask that question unless I say it's you. And she said, oh, please go ahead. That was fine.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, thank you, and thank you to Lorania as well.
Sure.
Okay. The doctors cut into her heart and did a lot of different things to her heart. because they didn't know, what was going on with her. And so, a lot of experimental stuff. But because that has occurred, certain medications have to be taken. She received the Kundalini very well at the Berlin seminar. She's one of those rare people that got it immediately. And now, she wants to do the ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, ladies and gentlemen, is a step down from Kundalini. It is not the Kundalini. Now, yes, you can say it's liquid Shakti and all that stuff, and I agree, but it's temporary liquid Shakti.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not a guarantee that you're going to get more bells and whistles, a greater level of ecstasy or greater level of bliss. And I didn't get any bliss in Oregon at all. I was waterboarded in vomit the whole time, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even want to smell that stuff again. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And if I had a heart condition and I was taking drugs for that heart condition, and I went in there and I was heaving the way I was heaving, I mean, as it was, I thought I was going to have an aneurysm.
Yeah.
It was horrible, an absolutely horrid, horrid experience. But it was helpful.
Sounds absurd.
Oh my God!
But I understand. I mean, I know you don't think I do, but I do.
But yeah.
Only because I had a horrendous experience the first time in Peru, and nobody knows how bad it was. But anyway.
Oh my word!
Is it
so
not
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I don't care. Well, let's also look at the profit motive here too. The MD supports the shaman. The shaman want as many people as they can get to come over and take the ayahuasca. And I'm happy that they have an MD on board and that the MD is willing to go on the line and say, oh, hey, we'll give you a greatly reduced dosage, which is what they said. I think that's fine. I think that's showing a level of responsibility. She will do what she wants to do. I'm not saying that my opinion is the law for her. I want her to discern and to let her Kundalini discern what she should do, not her wants and desires. So I guess that's the main thing right there. If her Kundalini wants her to do it, then let her go.
Let her do it. I think she's asking because of the situation she came into. I don't think she ever really wanted it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She came in and I was doing it and somebody else was doing it, and I think you suggested she do it. And so I didn't suggest that she do it. I don't think I recall suggesting that she do it. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chrism.
Because of her heart condition. I mean, when I gave her Shaktipat, she told me about her heart condition. And so I'm sitting there in the chair and I'm looking at her and I'm checking with my Shakti, and my Shakti reaches out and blesses her immediately. She is a saint. Jessa is a saint that doesn't know she's a saint, that thinks that she should feel a certain way because she is a saint. It's a phenomenon thing. They want the phenomenon. How can you say no to somebody? It's like they're searching for ecstasy, they're searching for bliss. But I'll say no. If they're searching for things that support egocentrism over just Shakti discernment, well, I'm gonna say don't do it if that's the case. If it's not the case, if the Shakti in her is saying yes, go ahead and do it, well, that's a different story. Then she should go ahead and do it. Over.
Oh, actually, there's another part, and she says, he answered her already, this might be you, Chrism, that Kundalini is different and it might not be good for me, but I just want Chrism to know that they answered me, and she's going to send you also the full content of the answer.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'd like to welcome all the new listeners in the chat room as well, Brent and all the different guests, and I'd like to welcome you all to the program, and I'd like to welcome Josephine as well. Thank you, Josephine, for calling in. Go ahead, Santara.
Chrism, isn't it true though that when you have, what's your comment on Kundalini? When a person has Kundalini awakened, Kundalini awakening, the Kundalini is the one that controls and decides what happens with the ayahuasca.
Yes, it does indeed. It does indeed.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is
and she'll trick you into taking it. Let me tell you.
But you know why I say that too, Chrism, is because I was in Peru with the group in February, but then in August, our shaman from Peru came to a European country, and I went there, but I did not partake. My husband did. He wanted to partake for the first time, and I was given for my Kundalini that I was not to partake, so I did not. I went there, and I sat in on the ceremony. But I had, during those 6 hours of just sitting there, very, very intense experiences that were from my Kundalini. And yet, had I taken the ayahuasca, I would have said they were there. You know what I mean? It was the ayahuasca. I hadn't even taken the tea. And the Kundalini was extremely present in what I saw and what I experienced in some of the things that were quite challenging. So I just thought that was really, really, that was quite amazing to me too, that I had to take the tea, and yet so Kundalini is the boss, I think.
And that's how you can get possessed too, by the way. That's how you can get possessed, is you go and you sit in on an ayahuasca ceremony without doing the ayahuasca, i.e. without the protections that the ayahuasca gives to you. Everybody's getting opened up, and they're within a certain level of protection from the liquid Shakti, so to speak. But for those that aren't taking it, that's how a black magic possession can take place, which I think happened to me back in 2010 when I went down there the first time. And I didn't do the ayahuasca, but I sat in on the ceremonies, and I think that's what occurred.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, I don't think that's happened to me, but I mean, who knows?
I don't know.
I was very.
You know, when you didn't answer, I could hear a breathing was like. Yeah, and I thought I heard you say, "Luke, I am your father."
That was my head spinning around. But there was entities there. I mean, there are always entities there, as all the sermons. I mean, and a lot of them, you know.
That's right. That's right.
Without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt, my God, and they're not all there with the people either. They just come in, don't they? I mean, they just go, woo, and anyway.
They do.
Okay, so I will move on to the next question, and it's from Group Anissa, and she says, do aromatherapy and chakra healing music help to balance chakras? Do you advise them?
Yes, I think so. I think surrounding yourself with pleasing and serenity type of music. Some religious music is very good with that. A Deva Premal comes to mind, and some music by Paul Schaefer comes by. Ascension by Paul Schaefer comes to mind, and surrounding yourself with beautiful music and scented oils that are natural, that are not chemically, fabricated, can be very helpful. Aromatherapy typically uses natural-based oils. I like desert sage and where is that thing here? I thought I had it around here, but. Yeah, I like some of these oil mixes that are very, very conducive, I think, to good meditation, to good levels of devotion, to soothing, relaxing mindsets and soothing emotional qualities as well. If you've got a high stress scenario where your emotions are kind of going out of control, I think aromatherapy and soothing music can be very, very, very beneficial. Absolutely.
Well, she's asked Chrism, about chakra healing music?
Chakra healing?
Does it have to balance the chakras? That was in her question.
No. Chakra healing, please.
Yeah, you missed that.
Trying to put a bandage on a chakra? No, and these people that call themselves chakra healers, bogus. Absolutely bogus. The chakras don't get damaged in the ways that people think they get damaged. Not to say that they can't be damaged, it's just that the Kundalini itself will heal a chakra. A chakra is a mixture of neural radiance from neural responses that collect along the spine. And so, your first chakra, has neural responses that respond to very specific stimuli. That stimuli gives off a specific radiance. So the neural response to that stimuli gives off a level of etheric and energetic response, and that response will form the quality of that chakra. In this case, the first chakra, you get this dark ruby red color. And say with the fifth chakra, you get this beautiful dark blue, this amazing vibrant blue color, and that corresponds with the neural radiance that collects at the throat, et cetera, and so forth. And so, sure, if you damage your throat, well, then you may, have the capacity to damage the chakra of the throat. But if you heal the throat, well, guess what? You heal the chakra too. So really, I guess chakra healers would be people that work in the medical field, because if you've got a solar plexus issue or something like that, and they fix the physical issue of the solar plexus, well, therefore they've also fixed the etheric radiance that comes from the neural response of the third chakra, the organs that are associated with the third chakra, the bone structures associated with the third chakra, so on and so forth. So somebody that just comes by and says, "Hi, I'm a chakra healer, and so is my twin flame." No. No, they're not. They're not doing that. You got to feel. You got to heal that which brings the chakra into being, and that is etheric neural radiance that comes from the collections of neural activity that go up the spine. That's what will heal a chakra if the chakra is indeed broken. No offense to the twin flamers out there, the people that want to do healing. I think wanting to do healing is a beautiful, blessed thing. But be authentic in what it is you do, rather than, putting yourself into a position where you say you're something when in fact you may not be that.
Chrism,
it's not all about intention. Yes?
Oh, that's okay. That's it's not all about intention, because I was going to say that chakras, you would come across that chakras have a sound frequency that resonates. So there's different sound frequencies that resonate with different chakras, and I think I've come across these. I've actually, over the years, where people will suggest that you listen to these specific ones for specific chakras, and that they will be of good benefit to those particular chakras that resonate. And actually, I've listened to one or two out of curiosity and find that they jar incredibly well. They did with me anyway. But
that's good. Let's see what Lorania says about that too. What does Lorania say about that, Elizabeth, or yourself? Uh-oh. Did you hear the question, my dear? I think we'll go back in the blue there. Okay. No, that's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
Moving on. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay, let's move on then. The next one it says, it's from Greg, and he says, how to decide when spirit release should be attempted as opposed to the crucible of reversal method. I've been told that I have a couple of very harmful spirits and they partially inhabit my body, and that I should have a spirit release and soul retrieval session. Uncertain of this, I have been trying to surrender thoughts and impulses that are not loving and to embrace love and prayer more often. I've debated this for a few years now as to what is best for me. Thank you.
Wow, you kind of broke off there at the end there, Amelia, but I get the question.
Okay.
Just to digress a little bit, chakra sounds, you can have certain notes associated with certain chakras, and people like to use a tuning fork with that. I'm not sure I buy that at all. But, you can have specific notes that go with certain chakras, but I don't think they'll be the same for everyone. So there's that. And as far as Greg goes, I don't have a problem with a soul retrieval session as long as the shaman is authentic and that the healing is authentic. A lot of shamans come with so many entities attached to them. It's hard to even psychically see them through all the hurricane of entities that are swarming around them. They in many cases they do more damage than good. But if you can find a good soul retriever, what will happen typically is you'll be put into a trance state, and while you're in that trance state, a shamanistic power animal will be given the task of searching one of the three worlds. One world, two world, three world. One of the three worlds for that soul fracture and where that soul fracture is. And as that power animal retrieves that soul fracture, you see, it's not the shaman doing it. It's the power animal doing it. So as that power animal retrieves the fractured area of the soul, that fractured area comes up and through the power animal is telling why the soul fractured up, that fractured off, and it's things like child abuse. The person was raped as a child or something like that, and it caused a splinter of the soul to go and hide in one of the three worlds so that would not happen to them again. And so the individual needs to say to that soul fracture, I accept you back and know that will never happen to you again. And I will love you and take care of you and nurture you, and you'll be protected and you'll be safe. And that fracture begins to rejoin with the individual. But it also goes, could be an accident that has fractured the soul. The accident could have been so painful and so jarring that it fractured the soul. And so that power animal goes and they find that fracture, and then the same type of a thing occurs. And so this is a typical soul retrieval session. The big deal is to allow yourself to become relaxed enough. Now, the shaman will use different rattles or different noise-making devices or a drum. Sometimes the drum is used to lull the person into the altered state. But, soul retrieval can be very, very beneficial. I've got no problem with that. Within a Kundalini context, I don't know where his question is going within a Kundalini context. Does he say he's activated?
Yeah, this is Greg Kowalczuk. Yeah. Yes, this is, I can say his name because I asked on the group and he gave his name, so it's public.
This is Greg from Canada, right? Okay. Kowalski. Yeah.
Now the thing is that he has been told by somebody. He doesn't say he himself knows.
This is where I have the problem, right there. I was told by somebody. The guy at the gas station told me that I have a spiritual fracture and that I need to go and have a soul. It's like, give me a break.
He was told, Chrism, that he has harmful spirits that are partially inhabiting his body.
Yeah. Okay, great. Why does he choose to believe that? He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. You know, I met Greg down in Los Angeles, and he did a seminar when I was doing seminars in Los Angeles. I met him down there. He is one of the kindest, most considerate people that has ever graced this planet. And if he has evil entities inhabiting him, well, they're doing a really bad job.
He's using the crucible of reversal, Chrism. This is the thing. He says
then the crucible's doing a really good job.
Good job. Yeah. So he's just wondering,
Greg,
does the time come?
Greg, if you're listening to this right now, you keep doing that crucible of reversal. You keep doing it because it's working. And don't you believe everything that somebody tells you. I'm looking at you right now, and I don't see dark, evil entities in you at all. Now, if you're having some bad thoughts come to you and you need to use the crucible of reversal, then just keep reversing it. Eventually, they'll get tired of it, and they'll go feed off of somebody else. But you continue to do your selfless acts of kindness and your selfless acts of beauty and healing that you do for people and for people on the groups. You are a splendid example of a Kundalini awakened person, and I want you to honor that in yourself. Okay, and what were you saying, Amelia?
No, that was it, Chrism, really. He was just asking, he says it's going on, he's debated it for a few years, and so
he can do a full retrieval if he wants. I mean, it's not going to hurt him.
But is a soul retrieval and, let's say, spirit release, are they two different things, Chrism?
Yes.
Okay.
One.
Well, I know they are, but
one is a fracture from a soul, and the other is a possession.
Mm-hmm. So, are you saying that a soul retrieval is fine if he has the right shaman, but to stay away from spirit release? Or are you?
No, I didn't say that at all. I'm saying that
I know.
that if he wants to have a soul retrieval, find a good shaman, one that he can trust, one that knows what they're doing, and that's fine. That won't hurt him, but it won't necessarily help him from a possession either. A possession takes more of a spirit releasement type of thing, which is kind of what what I had to experience up there in Oregon. You know, I was doing the crucible of reversal for 6 years, successfully, and you just have to keep your ethics in line. You have to keep your morality straight. Now, they can do some, entities can do some awful things to, with people, and they can fabricate lies, they can fabricate this or that, but they can, some good things can also occur through that type of pressure. So if Greg is doing the crucible of reversal, then he's doing it successfully. And to keep going. If I were Greg, I would go and have an ayahuasca experience more than I would have a soul retrieval experience. And I would go to the shaman that was doing the ayahuasca and say, I need an entity extraction within the ayahuasca. That's what I would do if it were me.
Okay. Thanks, Chrism.
Sure. Over.
Thank you. Okay. The next question is, it's about ayahuasca again, actually. Okay. So this was on the group. So I had my first ayahuasca ceremony about a month and a half ago, and it was amazing. I wanted to stay connected to the medicine through some spiritual practice, and I landed on Kundalini Yoga. I was at Kundalini Yoga last night, and right after the first round of rapid fire, I felt absolutely shifted back into the medicine, except I thought it felt horrible. The feeling has stopped since, and now 12 hours later, I feel awful. The intensity comes in waves, and I'm doing what I can to remain relaxed and let it do its thing if it is the Kundalini. If it is the Kundalini, when does this end? And I'm afraid to call in sick. Could this be a psychotic re-experience of ayahuasca as some psychedelics can do that.
No. This is her or him doing breath of fire, you know, after having during their ayahuasca processing. This is, you know, they just did the wrong thing, and now they're blaming the wrong thing. Okay, they need to not do the Kundalini yoga at all. Mm-hmm. Do the safety protocols, Kundalini awakening safety protocols. Do not do breath of fire. I constantly tell people not to do breath of fire, but you know, not everybody hears it. And so once again, we're saying do not do breath of fire. And they do this after a lot of yoga sessions, you know, whether it's hatha yoga or, you know, shiitake mushroom yoga or Kundalini yoga or Emerald Isle yoga, you know, in order to bring people back to their normal. I don't know why they do it. It's a huge mistake, and it's another word for it is called Vastrika, and it's where you really inhale strongly and forcefully in an alternate nostril breathing pattern. It's the worst thing you can do. And this person is living that reality. You don't do Vastrika. You don't do breath of fire. Don't do that. Okay? Come out of the yoga session calm and relaxed, not energized that way. That's an extremely artificial way that these yoga centers try to use to energize people. And it's a mistake. It's a mistake that they do consistently. And the problem is it doesn't, you know, for the mundane person, the unawakened person, it doesn't really hurt them at all. But for people that are sensitive and people that are beginning to encounter an activation or an awakening format, it can be very detrimental. Over.
Thank you, Chrism. And the same lady then wrote again, and she said she had got some sleep. She's currently sitting in her front yard barefoot, leaning against the tree, grounding, and it's helping. But she had to take some time off work because she cannot focus. And she's worried for when she might be able to get back to work, because she can't tell them, obviously, she's had a Kundalini awakening.
Well, she's got to stop the breath of fire. She's got to stop doing Kundalini yoga. Period.
Okay. Over. Okay. Okay, so there is a question here from somebody else, and it says, Dear Master, a great many blessings and all of that. And he said, I met a man at work on more than one occasion at exactly 11:11. The message came today that he was, when he was with me, that he is awake. And then on the ride back to work, I think, he had a discussion with him and a lot about, you know, esoteric stuff opened up between them. So anyway, he says he knows very little about the Essenes. Am I pronouncing Essenes? E-S-S-E-N.
The Essenes.
The Essenes, thank you. Yeah. Essenes. And he learned a great deal.
These are the folks that ostensibly raised Christ, as Christ was a child.
So he wants to know, what is your view on those teachings on Kundalini, as his knowledge is not sufficient at this moment?
Well,
the Essene teachings in relation.
You know, first of all, I don't have the Essene teachings memorized because it doesn't really, it doesn't matter to my equation at all. But the Essenes, they had a very strict teaching protocol. I'm just searching my memory with this now. They had a very strict teaching protocol. Some of them were vegetarians, not all of them. Some of them were omnivores as well. They basically lived a very, very dense spiritual life. And it has been said that they were the ones who, after Christ was born, not on Christmas Day, but when he was actually born, they were the community that he was raised in before he left that community and went off into India and some of the other parts of the world that he visited. They practice a very, very, very strong level of spirituality. And as far as the Kundalini context of their spirituality, yes, actually, I'm being told they were activating because of the density of their practice. They were activating the Kundalini, but they were also activating it within the conditions of non-self-aggrandizement, and they were practicing strong levels of ahimsa. And Christ was supportive. He was taught those things as a child, but his Kundalini was already raised because he was born with it raised, I guess similar to what happened to me, and that the quality of his energetics were enhanced by the Kundalini activity that existed within that community. So they were very important to his development. And they were also very important to their own spiritual development. But it's not the modern Essenes. The modern Essenes, no, not so much. But definitely the ancient Essenes that were not surrounded with various forms of electromagnetism, that were not surrounded with radio waves and TV waves and microwaves and long waves and short waves and all of these other interferences that can come from modern Western technological society. They practiced a very pure form of spiritual discipline, and everybody did it. Everybody did it. It wasn't just the men. It wasn't just the women. It was everybody in the community. And another group of people that come to mind with this are the Cathars as well, Cathars. And the Cathars also had a very, very extreme level of devotional belief system that began to activate them in ways that allowed their Kundalini to come forward to the point where they understood that they were on a refinement world and that this world was controlled by dark forces that were forcing good people to do bad things if those people chose or allowed themselves to be coerced to do bad things, i.e. create karma. And so the Cathars and the Essenes had a very similar level of interaction with Kundalini. The Essenes, though, yeah, very, very powerful group of people. The modern day version, not as much. Not to say that they're not activating people. Anybody that's going to be in any kind of a religion that it has a very dense level of devotion, of prayer work, of meditation work, of ahimsa, of appreciation of life and its many different frequencies of interaction, they're gonna have a greater propensity towards Kundalini activation than say other spiritual belief systems that aren't so dense. So there you have it. Over. Oh, hey, and it looks like we're coming up to the end of our program. So any last words there, Amelia?
Oh, wow, time flies, doesn't it? No, I don't think so, Chrism. I suppose I would like to say one thing actually about donations as well, because Chrism, to the listeners, Chrism, you mentioned earlier about, the charge that you're now being directed to charge for Skype sessions and that. But however, for many of us that are here, that are listening to your words, that watch you on video, that listen to Chrism's written teaching, I think for us in particular, we've been invited to voluntarily donate for those things, for that time, for the teachings that we're receiving. And I think that's another way that the Kundalini is also directing people to contribute, because we need to also place sort of a monetary value on that exchange too. Just because we're not getting something very, very specific doesn't mean that we're not being called to donate. So I just wanted to say that as well, Chrism, and thank you very much for the program, and thank you to everybody. And as I always say, see you next week, same time, same channel.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alana Seeker, Brent, Mary Jean, Phil, and David. Thank you, all the guests. Thank you, Josephine and Rosemary and Joey and Santara. And thank you, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and Laranya. Thank you for everyone who is listening in the archives. And I will end it the way that I started it, minus the little musical thing that I did.